All right, welcome to the Strength of Change podcast. We're super fortunate to have Mr. Derek Lopez on the show from Stand Up Our Kids. Super inspiring story and message that he's bringing to the world. So excited to have him on our first interview format, long form podcast. So Derek, man, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here nice and early from out west.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, Nick.
Yeah, man. So tell me a little bit about yourself and then kind of what is the premise and mission of Stand Up Our Kids?
So, yeah, like you said, my name is Derek Lopez. I started Stand Up Our Kids LLC about 2 years ago. I have 3 kids under 9. I have a full-time day job doing medical sales. And I've always been an athlete. I played college baseball. And I love snowboarding. I've just always been a very, very active person. And so a couple years ago, my son broke his leg skiing, and some light bulbs went on for me when he was in kindergarten. I noticed that when he was in his wheelchair, he was pretty much at the same activity levels as all the other kids, which was sitting down.
Right.
So with my active lifestyle and my background, I just thought this was such a problematic, troublesome, just negative experience. And I wanted to do anything I could to make it positive. So I just pondered for weeks and weeks while he was in this wheelchair and thinking to myself, gosh, kindergarten's all about fun and activity and it should be a fun time. And then, the light bulb went on with standing desks, and I did some research. Yeah, there's some manufacturers out there, but they're big furniture companies that really don't have the special interests that I have as far as, really promoting standing and more activity for kids during the day. So I started a Facebook page and I just started talking and putting out the word and these messages. And then after like 4 months, an old friend, I haven't talked to in 20 years. He's actually a doctor in Houston. And he reached out to me and he said, look, I see what you're doing. I see you're trying to do like the activism thing and push this whole topic. However, if you're serious, you should probably manufacture these things. And if you're really serious, I can connect you with the right people. And so, I've known this guy for 20 years and he's a really good dude. So I trusted him and I went down the path and I came to a point where I needed to fund this whole thing. And so I cashed out my 401k and bought the first inventory. So we're debt free. I'm self-funded. I bought roughly 60 desks for the first inventory and started a company. And now we have our desk in 7 different states on all education levels. So K through 12 and college. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was just a really weird time in my life where I was trying to turn something that was horribly negative into something positive, and this is what happened.
Yeah, man, that's a crazy story. Tell me kind of the feeling you had when you start, doing the videos and stuff, and he connects with you, and then you're like, hey, I got to fund this. Tell me what it felt like to cash out that 401k and kind of go for it.
It took me almost a month and a half to actually pull the trigger. And, I thought about it and I wrote down the numbers and thought about, where do I want to see my family and my entrepreneurial aspirations and my career, everything. Where do I see it in 12 months? Where do I see it in 5 years? Where do I see it in 10 years? So actually this huge decision forced me to really think through it. And at the end of the day, I thought to myself, if I really want to start a business, I want some funding. I either do this or I go get a business loan. If I get a business loan, and I pay an interest rate, it's going to be the same cost to me on the back end as the fee that I'm going to pay on the front end for the 401k fees. So I said, screw it. And so it was a really hard decision. I do have another 401k already building up. I'm sure it made my wife pretty nervous, but she was super supportive, and it ended up working out,
Yeah. Having that supportive partner, I'm sure, is key. I went through a similar process when I opened my gym. You know, obviously I didn't want to take out a huge loan, but I had some money saved up from my time in the military and money I put towards retirement. And I was like, well, I can exactly go one route, take out a loan, or I can, find some small level partners and cash out everything and kind of take that step. And I love talking to other people who have gone through that because it's up to you to make something happen. So I love seeing that kind of action step that you took. Tell me kind of what level of, do you have a background in engineering or research, or how did you figure out as far as designing the desk that would be, usable and functional to provide the value that you wanted to provide to kids in school?
Well, it's funny you say that because as I was trying to cash out the 401k, I thought to myself, I don't have any experience in education. I don't have any experience in engineering. I have no experience in website design. Like like it took me a long time to really cash out my 401k because I was thinking about all this stuff.
Right.
And it's true. I don't have experience in education. I don't have experience in engineering. And it was a lot of like, going to sleep at night with a bunch of doubt and then watching like a Gary Vee video or a Eric Thomas. Do you follow Eric Thomas?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I literally would like end the day with all this doubt and then watch like a Gary Vee video and Eric Thomas video and like refresh and reinvent myself and then come back the next day and just keep grinding. And the engineering part, was just pure motivation. I was like literally using a pencil and paper and drawing my own renderings with a ruler. And I threw out a ton of paper and screwed up a ton of times, but
Yep.
I finally came up with a rendering that actually made sense, and the manufacturer said, "Yeah, this will work." And so that was it. I mean, I literally like took a picture of my rendering on a piece of paper and forwarded it to my manufacturing partners and asked them, "Will this work?" And they said yes. And so it was funny. I should have saved them all,
For sure.
and that actually taught me to save as much memories from this process as possible. Like Gary Vee says, just record the whole thing, and then, you're going to look back in 5 years and be like, holy cow, So yeah, there's no experience. It was just full grit and just willing to learn. And I think I'm still there, but that's, I think what most entrepreneurs do is that they just go for it and figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great. Like there's always 1,000 reasons not to do it, right? You're always going to be able to find that reason. And working with my clients and working with the kids that I work with, there's always going to be a reason not to do it. And just like you feel that doubt and, hey, I don't know anything about desk, websites, social media marketing. I don't know any of that things. But that one thing you do know is like, hey, this is the impact. This is the change I want to bring to the world. And you allow that to take the forefront and not be held back. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle because everyone's got a good idea, right? I'm sure 100 people have thought about stand-up desks for kids before, but you were able to fight through that, whether it's through, other people motivating you or your own self-drive, but you were able to take that step and make it happen. I'm sure you know all this information, kind of share with us some of the facts and statistics associated with inactivity, childhood obesity, ADD, ADHD, because I know it's rampant. Running my after school program in the middle school, at the middle school level, and working with kids in the gym, like just being able to see the difference between an active young person and an inactive young person is huge. And I know you have a lot of information. I think that's super valuable to kind of share.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people don't understand, and they get into parenthood, and they don't even know some of these stats, and then it's just mind blowing. So it's known, or it's thought that 6.5 million kids have ADHD, which
Wow.
means, that we're saying that 6.5 million kids are walking around with a neurological disorder, and I don't believe that's true. And then there's 18.5% of kids 5 to 18, 18.5% of kids 5 to 18 are obese or hitting the obesity line. And so, you know, these two stats for me, childhood obesity and childhood ADHD, are a very serious topic for me in this organization because, you know, for instance, the ADHD thing, you know, my son was at risk of getting assessed, right? And
Right.
I'm not making fun of it by any means, because I do think there are kids that, you know, have challenges that need support. You know, but there are certain challenges that you can tackle with simple human tactics. For instance, you know, my son was like I said, at risk for being assessed. You know, but when we really assessed his environment, he had his best friend sitting 10 feet from him, and he had 2 or 3 other kids who were very loud and controlling and came from traumatic backgrounds. So he had 2 or 3 kids in his environment. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying this is how kids operate.
Right.
And we don't identify the social thing, right? Or what's going on in the classroom. And then we diagnose them. Well, when I gave my son his standing desk, it wasn't really about standing and being healthy. It was about ownership and accountability. So we said, hey, your teacher and your parents believe in you and we support you. Here's the standing desk. And he was like eyes wide open, stoked about it, loving it. But the goal was, hey, if you continue acting up, if you continue disrupting the class, the desk is going to get taken away from you. And he couldn't think like how horrible it would be for his standing desk to be taken away. He wanted it so bad that
Right.
it changed everything. He literally was like a bottom 5 reader in the beginning of the school year, and he turned himself around into like a top 10, top 5 reader
That's awesome.
in the classroom. So he was engaged. He had the ownership. And at the end of the day, he was standing up, burning more calories, and, you know, allowing that body to, you know, have good posture. And it was a game changer. And, you know, if we were in the hands of other parents that maybe don't pay attention to this stuff and just leave it up to the education system, he might be taking ADHD meds and possibly be diagnosed, which I know he's not. And
Correct.
I think a lot of parents get to that, you know, they get to that little like edge. They get to the edge, right? And they're like, do I give my kids meds and put this treatment program on them? Or do I just chalk it up to the fact that he's a kid and we should just let this thing go and support him? And I think the standing desk can fit right there in the middle as this experimental method
Right.
before they go to the therapist or before they go to the psychiatrist. So I think childhood obesity and ADHD are huge topics that people need to pay closer attention to.
Absolutely. And I'm 100% on board with that. And, you know, like you said, we're not saying that it doesn't exist. We're saying, I'm saying personally that there needs to be a little bit more evaluation. Like you said, is the student just in an environment that's not conducive to focus? Is the student in an environment that is distracting to them? And what I think as students get older, and maybe even some younger students, is, are the students being challenged enough to keep them engaged, to keep pushing them forward, you know, outside of their comfort zone, so that they're not just complacent with, hey, this isn't interesting to me. What are we doing to stimulate mental and physical growth on a daily recurring basis that will prevent distraction and, you know, their mind wandering that is then all of a sudden diagnosed as ADD and ADHD. And then all of a sudden, because they're not stimulated and challenged in the classroom, now we're on medication that, you know, positive, negative effects, who knows, down the road, that can be avoided. And I think the standing desk, like you said, is that great middle ground that can reinvigorate, you know, the student to be more focused and to pay attention at a higher level in class. If it's even, I think I've seen some of your pictures where it's not the whole classroom of standing desk. It's, hey, there's 4 in the back. If someone is distracted, hey, get up, go take an opportunity to use your standing desk. If, you know, your legs get tired or whatever it is, you can come back to your seated desk. And even, this is a crazy thing, even when I was in the Marine Corps, we have these huge classrooms when we're going through school, learning tactics and all the stuff. And it's a long day. Kids are in school for 8 hours. Like any adult can probably agree when they're at work, there's definitely a time in the day that they're fatigued. And most kids aren't drinking coffee like you and I.
Right.
So even when
Right.
I was a student and an instructor in the Marine Corps, we would allow students to stand up, go to the edge of the classroom, go to the back of the classroom, continue to focus so that you're not missing the material. And we weren't diagnosing anyone with ADD. We were like, hey, this makes sense. Get up, get your blood flowing, and let's move forward.
Yep.
So I agree 100%. I think it's that great middle ground that we can, use this as a tool to, again, re-stimulate, reinvigorate that student in the classroom. So I love that. And then, I've had experiences with, I ran a summer camp for middle school kids, and parents were like, hey, if my kid is too out of control, and I had them for the full day, if they're too out of control, I can come back and get them. And I'm like, hey, I think we'll be fine. And because we were actively engaged in things all day, we're working out, we're going for a hike, we're learning things that are kind of challenging the kid, never had any issues. And these kids that are hyperactive at home and at school, they're in the gym. The crazy thing is it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, it just immediately goes away, which is baffling to me, that we don't see that more often in schools and other locations.
Yeah.
And I, like you said, burning more calories, obviously childhood obesity is one of my passions, and I see it at all levels of young people and adults. And just standing up, like you said, you're automatically burning more calories, and every little bit helps. So I think it's a great place to be. So tell me, before we get to kind of the final questions and finishing up, where can people follow you, learn more, kind of see what you're doing? You're very active on social media, which I love. So I want people to know where to find you.
Yeah. So our website is standupourkids.com. So you can definitely, I keep the website really brief and simple. It's got a home page, a product page, and a blog. So check us out there. And then Twitter at standupourkids, and the same thing at Facebook and Instagram as well. Stand Up Our Kids. And then my personal brand, you can find on Instagram and YouTube, Stand Up Dad. And so, I'm pretty active on all the platforms as much as I can be.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll link all that up in the show notes and make sure it's on all of our social media as well.
Awesome.
Tell me kind of do you have for other entrepreneurs or people that are trying to impact change, you're very active. Like I said, I love your content. What is your kind of content strategy on those social media platforms?
Press the start button. And I think, I can't create enough content right now. And that's where I'm at in my life. I'm at a challenge where I'm trying to figure out how to take care of family life, career life, and then do as much content creation as possible. And right now, I get that 5 minutes or that 15 minutes to come in the garage and maybe make a video, or, sit in my office and come up with a 2-page blog. And so I've basically taken all of the time that I would typically consume media on television, and I do deeply miss SportsCenter. But if you listen to the Tony Robbins and the Eric Thomases and the Gary Vaynerchuks, you can't finish your day with a bunch of excuses when you spent 30 minutes watching SportsCenter. And so I think that when it came to the content and the media creation, first I got over myself and said, I don't care if I'm 33, 34, 35 years old, and other people see this as childish or narcissistic or whatever the hell I got over that real fast.
Yep.
And then the step 2 was figuring out where the time was, and the light bulb went on. Like, gosh, I watch 30 to 40 minutes of SportsCenter every night. I can utilize that time to edit videos, build my website, and put up content. So I think it's just pressing the start button, and kind of like the Gary Vee thing again, is like record instead of create. And then, once you look back, you'll realize how much you actually have created by just recording.
Right.
And so that's what I've tried to keep that mentality. I really want to get more aggressive here in 2019 with like a quick 1 minute video of a hot topic, either in school life or family life, and then just, post it, don't edit it too much, and just do that over and over again daily. And hopefully at the end of the year, I'll have 200, 300 plus 1 minute videos where I can continue to build. So just press the start button, and it'll work out. But if you're worried about making a perfect video or making a perfect blog or making a perfect piece of content, you're never going to do it. I mean, Twitter says, the algorithm says you should tweet 13 to 15 times a day.
Wow.
So think about that. That's just one platform. So just press the start button, and I think it works out.
Yeah, take that step. You'll figure it out in the process. Love it. So final question. And we're going to ask everyone this question as we finish each show. But when your change in the world is complete, what will that look like?
Every single classroom in America will have 5 to 10 standing desks ready for their students.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I love that it's measurable and attainable. Like, people can throw stuff out there, but you having, hey, here's the number that I think is the minimum, and I want every single classroom. I love it, man. I look forward to working with you and continuing to see this mission forward and partnering and hopefully doing some cool stuff in the future. I really appreciate you being on the show. Anything you want to leave anyone with, or things I didn't ask?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And I think, the one thing I would like to leave everybody with is that, I know everyone talks about the dream and trying to go and accomplish your dream, but I think everyone has that one thing that they want to stand up for in their own life. It might be standing up to a family member or a toxic friend, a toxic person, or a bully, or the boss you hate at work, or everyone's got that one thing that they want to stand up for. And most people don't, because they don't want the drama and the anxiety and the stress that might come after. But I got to tell you, I've never felt more alive than, when I actually have stood up for something I believe in. So if you have something that you believe in, just stand up for it and do whatever you can, to make it loud and proud.
Awesome. I love it. Great way to end, Derek. I appreciate your time, man. Enjoy the rest of your morning, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Nick. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.